Hey guys, welcome to week 10 of class. So today we're going to be talking about using sources to represent different perspectives in your issue, and also reading peer-reviewed sources. These are a little bit more complex than your standard sources, so I sort of just wanted to go over that. And then we'll take a look at an example annotation since your annotations are going to be due this Sunday for the first two. So let's get to it. So first let's talk about the art of persuasion. So this essay is an argumentative essay, which inherently means that you are going to be trying to persuade your stakeholder to be on your side of this issue. So it's important to think about how you should approach someone who has a different perspective than you. And think about, the inherent association of the term argument. It's typically associated with negative things. If you're having an argument with someone, it's not generally a positive interaction. So why might this dialogue between people that have different value sets not be effective? And how can you apply this to your own research in A3? Those are just some things that I want you to consider, but a lot of the times arguments turn sour when people feel like their perspective isn't being considered. So think about how your research can consider the different perspectives of this issue. Remember to include sources that show the complexity of the issue, that show that it's not just a black and white issue, that there are shades of gray, and don't just show the two most extreme sides of the issue. Try to show all of those different shades of gray. So an example I can think of is, saying that people should be vegetarian because, if you're not vegetarian, it means that you hate animals and that you're just an evil person. That's obviously a very extreme take on the issue, where this issue is actually a lot more complex. There's plenty of people that really love animals but can't commit to being full-on vegetarians. So sorry guys, these are the kinds of things that you want to consider when you're talking about your issue and arguing for one side of it. How can I make my audience feel like I am being fair and unbiased? So let's move towards peer review and scholarly sources. And this is a little bit of review. We did talk about this last time, but just to refresh your memory, peer review sources do go through a specific and rigorous process in order to be published. They're typically written by researchers for researchers, so you're not their primary audience, which means that the information on them can be dense and written at a PhD level. So it's important for you to really take your time as you're reading these. And I will have you guys watch this video for homework. It's really good so that you're familiar with the peer review process and so that you know how to read a peer review scholarly source, since your annotations on these will be due this weekend. And now let's talk about popular sources. So these are often written for the general audience. They use basic language that's easy to understand. They hardly ever have citations for their sources, and they're shorter typically. They're about 1 to 5 pages long. And as you see on the right hand side here, they tend to have pictures and colors, whereas, academic sources are typically 10 pages or longer. They'll have full citations for all of the information they include, and if they include any images, they're typically charts and graphs and things that'll contribute to the reader's understanding. They're not just for the pleasure of viewing. So here are some examples of those on the right hand side. And this is just some more examples of what that scholarly source would look like. A lot of the times they have multiple authors, they have an abstract, and they'll list keywords that are used often. They have their sources, lots of references included. So make sure that, when you're looking at these peer review sources, you're looking at sources that have all of these elements in them. And again, here's another example of a popular source. Most of us are pretty familiar with that, just standard magazine type of thing. So let's talk about the requirements and expectations for your annotations. So you're going to be turning in a total of 4, 2 of which are due this weekend, and this is the minimum requirement for your research paper. You must have at least 4 sources. 2 of them have to be peer-reviewed, and 2 of them have to be popular media sources. These should all be coming from the library's databases, and they should be reliable, relevant, and recent, and you should be able to explain why. And this is the task of your annotations, is to explain how they are all of these things. So your sources should present different perspectives on the issue and represent them fairly regardless of what your position is on the issue. They should help you identify stakeholders, identify the complexity of the issue, and identify your position and support that position. So ideally, they will prepare you to write your argument on this issue. So now we're going to take a look at a student example of an annotation, but before we take a look at that, I want you to think about what information does this student talk about in the summary, and what information is included in the analysis portion. So here is this student's annotated bibliography. We see that she has the works cited information on the top here. The first line is left justified, and all the others have a hanging indent. And then we get right into the summary portion of the annotated bibliography. So she tells us what the main points of this article are, and then we get into the analysis immediately afterwards. So she says things like, although this source is credible, it should have showed more research like tables, graphs, and cite them in order for the audience to clearly understand what's going on. So she's really analyzing, what's strong about this source, what are its shortcomings, and why is she overall decided to use it despite those shortcomings. And I know I linked this last time, but I just want to emphasize how important it is for you guys to use the OWL website. It's full of resources and guidelines for MLA. No one is expected to know this stuff by memory, but you do have to know how to use your resources and follow the directions listed on these websites. And EasyBib is another resource that will help you, get things into that MLA citation format. But I do want to make sure that you're using both together to verify that EasyBib hasn't, made any mistakes. So creating annotations. We just took a look at that student example, and this just breaks it down. Summary and analysis portion of it should be 250 words. In the summary, you're going to be talking about the thesis and the key points. So this kind of refers back to those skills we learned in A1 when you all did your summaries. And then the analysis portion discusses the 3 R's. So the relevancy, reliability, and the recency of each of these. So that is it for today's lessons. Your homework, I'm going to have you watch a few of these videos listed here. This one is especially important because you are going to be doing your annotations on those scholarly sources, so I want to make sure that you know how to read them properly. And then these just talk about how you should be building up your argument and how you can target that argument at your specific audience. And then I want you to complete the MLA citation worksheet. This is on Canvas under Week 10 materials. It's due Tuesday by 11:59 p.m. So just make sure you fill out that worksheet and upload it. And then I do want you guys to continue working on your annotations that are due Sunday. So make sure that you're doing the research that's required and looking at the relevancy, recency, and reliability.